Thank you. I'd like to start out with a small quiz. Can everyone who owns a mobile device or any other electronic device, such as a tablet or something, to just browse the internet or read your emails, please raise your hand? That's more or less everyone in the room. Now, everyone who actually used that device today to read your emails again or browse the internet again, please raise your hands. Okay, that's again everyone. Now maybe a nasty question. Everyone who actually used this device in the last hour, probably to look something up about the very interesting presentations here, please raise your hands again. And that's again, well, really the majority of the room here. Now that's not a bad thing. I think we're living in a hyper-connected world. If I would have asked this question 10 to 15 years ago, I would have gotten a complete different answer. And indeed, we're more or less born with a smartphone in our hands, and that's great. It really gives us the world at our fingertips. Now the question I'm going to answer today is, how do we really connect all these devices to each other? Well, you're probably saying, that's easy. I just take out my smartphone, I open my web browser, I visit a certain URL, and I'm done. But that's not always the case. Sometimes if you're watching high bitrate type of things, for example, a video, you're watching it on your smartphone, and just on the moment where you're watching this, you could use 4G or Wi-Fi, for example, and just on the moment when the suspense is highest of all, it actually stops. Yeah. Now, the problem is that while you are watching your video on the YouTube service, for example, well, a lot of other people are doing exactly the same thing. They're also competing for your bandwidth within that network or within another network to get the same quality. And actually becomes worse because right now we're more or less, well, adding more and more devices to the internet, a coffee cup, sensors, and so on. And they too are all competing for the same bandwidth. Now, you probably know that this is called the Internet of Things. Now, within our group, we're actually focusing on the large-scale part of these Internet of Things. So we're focusing on large-scale Internet of Things networks, because things really become very challenging when you're trying to connect hundreds, thousands, sometimes even 10,000s of these devices. Now, the best word that describes these large-scale Internet of Things networks is chaos. It really, really is very chaotic. We have a multitude of networks, we have a multitude of technologies, we have a multitude of devices, and they're all joining, leaving the network very dynamically. Now let me give you two examples of those chaotic environments where we as a research group are actually trying to solve the challenges that come within. Now, one of those chaotic environments is this. You probably recognize a music festival. It's more specifically the Tomorrowland Music Festival in Boom near Antwerp. And you might wonder, well, what does this have to do with a large-scale Internet of Things network? Well, in fact, behind the scenes, there are actually a lot of networks happening here. On one hand, we have 80,000 festival bracelets. Those are no longer those fabric analog bracelets I wore when I still visited a lot of festivals. No, they are really wearables right now, which are connected, which allow you to be connected with each other inside the network itself and inside the festival itself. On the other hand, we have 80,000 smartphones. People who are all wanting to use their smartphone, they want to record something on the festival, they want to upload it directly to YouTube. Now, to support all of this, we actually have specifically for Tomorrowland about 1,000 wireless devices or wireless routers. And if you add all of this together, this actually means a whole lot of interference. We did a lot of tests this summer at Tomorrowland, and the spectrum is really completely full. It's very hard to get any bit additionally into that. Now, to top it all off, this is actually the environment you see in, well, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But on Monday, Tomorrowland actually looks like this. So there's no real infrastructure available right now to actually support all of this communication technology. Now, within the IFS project, we're actually working on a new type of festival bracelet. This looks like this. Maybe you've already seen the demo. So this is actually a digital bracelet which allows you to be connected to the Tomorrowland Festival. And you can actually do quite a few interesting things with this already. One of these things is there are LEDs on those bracelets, and it allows you actually to blink those LEDs on the beats of the music. At Tomorrowland this year, this more or less looks like this. Now, more specifically, what are we doing within that project? We're actually trying to build a new set of scalable communication protocols that actually allows you to give a continuous stream of sensor data from those 80,000 bracelets to a backend. And that's really challenging because it's really high scalable environment, and you need to design very specific new MAC protocols that support that kind of scale. A second thing we're doing is we're developing new solutions to actually offer Wi-Fi broadband as well. People want to serve their, want to use their smartphones on the festival as well. And there we're actually designing new hotspot systems for access points with more than, or environments with more than 100 access points. Now, a second type of example of such a large-scale Internet of Things network is this. Again, something which is maybe a little bit atypical, a bunch of Chris Froome, which is cycling up the Alpe d'Huez stage. What does this have to do with Internet of Things? Well, on his bike, there are actually a lot of sensors. And again, you get one big moving swarm of sensors here. And here, too, you have a massive amount of interference. And on the Alpe d'Huez climb, this is actually about 1,000 drunk Dutchmen trying to take selfies. Now, what are we doing here in that research project together with the Lotto Soudal cycling team? We're actually trying to capture the sensor information which is already there, so which is already positioned on the bike. We're designing new long-range protocols to get that information in real time to a team car or just to a centralized backend, so that you as a spectator can actually look at it and get new insights about how the race is evolving. Now, to do all of these things, we actually need a playground. Unfortunately, we don't have a Tomorrowland festival every weekend in Antwerp, and the Tour de France doesn't pass by our campus every day as well. And for us, that playground is City of Things. Now, City of Things is a broad initiative which actually tries to transform the city of Antwerp into a smart city, where you get a lot of sensors and continuous stream of sensors, and you really get a view on how the city evolves. But for us, it's a beautiful playground, actually, because smart cities are a perfect application domain to research on these more fundamental Internet of Things challenges which you have on a large-scale fashion. So what are we doing in Internet of Things, in the City of Things, sorry? We're actually building a complete backbone network to be able to have that sensor communication. So that means that we're designing about 100 multi-technology gateways, okay, the gateways which will be scattered throughout the entire city of Antwerp, and which will allow you to do network experiments on a bunch of technologies, Dash 7, LoRa, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and so on. Now, because we're connected to the city, it actually makes sense to actually link this with sensors as well. And here we're integrating that City of Things environment with a whole bunch of smart city sensors going from mobility, traffic information, air quality, noise, and so on. Now, the first City of Things gateways are already being deployed, and we hope to have about 100 gateways in 1 year from now, covering both the city itself and the harbor. So wrapping up, whether it's a smart festival like Tomorrowland, whether it's a cycling race like the Tour de Flanders or the Tour de France, or whether it's a smart city like the city of Antwerp, I hope I have convinced you that the Internet of Things is really here. It's really at a large scale, and it might be very scary, but together we're trying to make sure that it's also very challenging. Thank you.